This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, again, for those of you who are joining us, welcome to the 2022 open enrollment meetings. Thanks for joining us today. Going to have Karen and Amy from our Assured Partners, which were formerly, you may have known them as WSC. They're back this year to do a virtual meeting with us to give you a brief overview of the open enrollment process and what our benefits are and any changes to our benefits. They are very minimal this year, which is great. So I will turn that over to Karen. And like I said, the chat box is open. Our emails are open, Jane and mine. And if you haven't muted your line already, please do so. For those of you on the phone, it's *6. I see Amy jumping on right now. And you can unmute when you have a question with *6 as well. And for those of you with a little microphone in the corner, if you could have a red line across your microphone that's muted, that would be great. And then those are all the housekeeping things I have right now. So I'll turn it over to Karen and Amy. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Amy, do you want to lead and I'll go ahead? We already shared the presentation, so I will move it along for you. We just did welcome and introductions, but we haven't gotten started.
Okay, sure thing. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Great. Well, we're going to just run through this quickly and then feel free to ask questions. I think we want this to be, for your benefit. We appreciate your time and want to make sure you get something good out of it. So we can go ahead and move forward, Karen. So it is Clatsop County's open enrollment period for all of your benefit elections that started on Monday, October 4th. And we want to make sure you get all this information and have enough to make decisions to make any changes by October 22nd. So, we have some handouts and things that have been distributed and are going to be posted on the inside page for you, but just kind of wanted to give a high level overview of the benefit changes for this year. So we have an open enrollment checklist, so you can walk through it. There are a few steps involved in, getting all your benefits set up this year. We want everybody to log in to Dayforce and just review your benefits and make sure everything's set up the way that you want. You also want to sign up through the CIS Connect website, so you can see that in step 2. Here, so go through that. You're going to be able to make changes if you want to during this window, but you don't have to. We really just want to make sure you're confirming all of your benefit selections are what you intend for 2022. And then, so this is published and available to you on the inside page, so you'll all have a copy of this to kind of walk through. Any questions about the process for open enrollment and the steps that you need to take? Nothing too significant has changed in the process from last year. So we're going to highlight, we kind of already did the welcome, and we're going to touch on the changes for 2022, what's new, and then we'll go through some terminology for everybody. So you kind of, we joke, but, benefits can be complicated, and we want to make sure everyone really understands like all the features of their health plan. And then we'll go through the coverages and we'll review the costs for the benefits for 2022. And yeah, like I said, feel free to interject and ask questions in the chat or here on the video. So if you aren't familiar with open enrollment, this is the time of year where every employee of Clatsop County has an opportunity to make changes to their benefit enrollments for no reason at all. So you can sign up, drop a dependent, add a dependent. Maybe you got married last year and didn't put your spouse on the benefits, but now you would like to do that, this is the time of year for you to do that. And then the changes that you make in this window of time through October 22nd will be effective January 1st of 2022. If you personally experience a life event, and those are the items listed here on the screen, such as marriage, a divorce, a new child, or maybe a dependent's aging off of the plan, those are opportunities for you personally to go to HR and submit for some changes to your benefits in 2022 if that were to happen. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions about that? Okie dokes. So Clatsop County offers benefits to all active, regular, full-time county employees and part-time employees working 20 hours or more per week. Your eligible family members are also qualified to be covered on the plan. So that's your legal spouse, registered domestic partner, and your children up to age 26. Please know you have to they have to be covered as dependents on the plans that you select. You can't have yourself on like the high deductible plan and then have your family members on the PPO. So you have to all kind of be on the same program when it comes to dependent coverage, but those are qualified dependents. Okay, so for 2022, there are some things that you should be aware of, which is why we wanted to hop on this call and have a meeting with you all. So there will be new ID cards for all medical plan participants. So everyone's going to get a new ID card for January 1st of 2022. Be on the lookout for that in your mailbox. Make sure as part of open enrollment that your address and contact information is correct in Dayforce and in CIS Connect, just to make sure that those cards get to the right place. Basically, the change that's triggering that is our vision benefit. It's still going to be on the ID card, but we're moving to a direct relationship with VSP. Currently, the program is part of your Regents benefit, so they'll still be on the same ID card. It's really just a behind-the-scenes change that CIS is making, which is triggering the new ID cards. And then there is a state change, mandated change on alternative care benefits. We used to have $1,000 combined annual reimbursement limit, but that's changing to a visit limit. So instead of having a dollar amount that the plan will reimburse, there's actually a 20 visit limit for spinal manipulations or chiropractic services, and then a 12 visit limit for acupuncture. And then there is going to be an increase if you're a high deductible health plan participant. The county is increasing their employer funding to your health savings account across all of the bargaining units and unrepresented segments of classes of employees. So we're going to go into that in a little more detail in the coming slides. Any questions about the changes before we jump into the details? Okay. Oh, good question. It looks like we had a question in the chat. Is it a 20 visit limit for the individual or for the total family? It's per person covered on the plan, and that's in the calendar year. So every member of the family would have access to that same number of visits. You're welcome, Julia. Thanks for the question. Any other great questions? This is what we're here for, so keep them coming. All right. You guys, Kelly, let me know if you see any others pop in the chat. Okay, so we did want to go through some terminology. Like I said, we found sometimes, we think about this stuff all the time. That's our job, but you don't necessarily have to do that. So just as a refresher for folks, when we talk about your premiums on the plan, that's the cost that you pay each month through payroll deduction and the county contributes towards to have the coverage. So that's what comes out of your paycheck basically for the, the plans to have. And then the deductible is the amount that you have to pay on the plan. If you're getting, so it works a little differently on the high deductible plan versus the PPO, but as on the high deductible plan, you have to pay your deductible before the plan coinsurance starts. For the exception is preventive services. So preventive services and some preventive medications are covered at no cost to you before the deductible is met, but for the most part, everything on the high deductible plan is subject to that deductible first. On the PPO option, it's if you're just going in for the sniffles and you're going to your primary care provider, that's going to be covered at a copay. The deductible won't apply. It'll only come into play when you are having a more major service like a hospitalization, for example. So if you're covering a family, it's important to know the difference between the deductibles on the high deductible plan versus the PPO. So we've defined those here. The embedded deductible is on the PPO option. Each member, if you could mute yourself unless you have a question, we appreciate it. Each member on the family on the PPO plan has their own individual deductible level embedded in that family deductible. So when you look at the benefits summary, you'll see that the family limit is really the max the family unit would pay for deductible expenses, but then each person has their own personal deductible as part of that. It's like an extra layer of protection. On the high deductible plan, it's a true family or an aggregate deductible. So regardless of who's accruing the expenses, you do have to meet that family aggregate deductible before the plan kicks in. So I know that's a lot of deductible information, so feel free if you have any questions, chat them, or feel free to ask. On the PPO plan, like I mentioned, there are some services that are just copay based, so that's where you'll see a fixed dollar amount to have your primary care office visit services, or maybe you're going to the specialist. Those are just fixed amounts, so you can kind of predict what your expense will be. Coinsurance, you'll see that on both plan options, so the high deductible and the PPO, and that's typically deductible first, and then you pay 20% of the remaining charges on the bill until you get to your out-of-pocket max. So your out-of-pocket maximum is truly the most you will pay for covered services on the plan in that plan year. So that's your true out-of-pocket liability. Your deductibles, your coinsurance, your copays, all those things apply to your out-of-pocket. So that's really, if you had to think like, well, I'm probably going to have a really heavy duty medical year this year because I delayed all my services last year because of COVID. Your worst case liability for covered items is your out of pocket. So it's just a good feature to be aware of. And then the other thing we'd like to remind people about is balance billing. So when you were with Regions, Blue Cross Blue Shield through the CIS Trust, which is the biggest network in Oregon. But if you are, at the coast, I think especially there are some providers that might not be participating. If you go out of network, you do receive some benefit, but it's possible because that provider is not contracted with the insurance carrier, they may send you a bill for anything that the insurance carrier did not reimburse them for, and that's what we call balance billing. And we have a little example here. If the provider charges $300, but the negotiated allowed amount is only $100, the provider may directly bill the member the remaining $200. And that's really if you're going out of network. So it's really important when possible to see in-network providers to avoid that potential for balance billing. Any questions about the terms? Okie dokie. All right, so we offer county employees two choices for medical plans. Like I said, both are available through Regions Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is administered by the CIS Trust. We have the high deductible health plan, which is the lower premium out of your paycheck option, but then you have a slightly higher deductible. That deductible comes into play for almost every service. but you get the benefit of the health savings account and the county's contribution to that. So basically, as I mentioned, you're responsible for the cost of services and prescriptions, 100% of that cost, until your deductible's met. Once you've met your deductible, the plan pays 80% of the cost of services and the member pays 20% until you've met your annual out-of-pocket maximum. Once you met your out-of-pocket for the year, the plan pays 100% of all covered services. And then you'll see here, we reminded you that the high deductible plan for family coverage does have that aggregate deductible if you're having a family coverage. So preventive services, though, on the high deductible plan, like I said, are covered at 100%, no cost to you. And those are going to be specific to your age and gender. For example, if you're a woman over 40, you qualify for a mammogram. That's a preventive service that would apply to you, but wouldn't obviously apply to like your husband, for example. And then the other option is the PPO plan. This is the newer of the plan options. I think we rolled this out 2 years ago. So it's a more traditional plan. There is a deductible on it, but for most services, provider visits, and prescription drugs, you're going to pay a fixed dollar copay. Unless you're having a significant medical procedure, that's when you would see your deductible come into play, have to possibly pay a portion as coinsurance. But all those copays and deductible expenses, like I said, do accrue to your out-of-pocket maximum. And then for families, you have that embedded individual deductible for every member of the family in addition to your family deductible. And those are all tracked and available for you during the year on your region's website. So you can kind of see where you are. And then VSP vision coverage is part of both plans. So you get that regardless. Any questions on the overview of the medical plans? You also have dental coverage available through Delta Dental. There's an annual maximum benefit of $2,000 per member, and they are incentive style plans. So the longer you've been on the plan, if you're getting services regularly, like you get your 2 cleanings every year, you can improve your benefit over time. So it's an encouragement for you to go and at least have your preventive services every single year. If you haven't been to the dentist in 2021, you still have time to go and maximize your benefit. So definitely recommend a good dental cleaning. Any questions on the dental coverage? I call it Delta Dental. If you want to log in and view your benefits, it's My Moda. So you can log into Moda. They administer the dental benefits for you. Okay, here we have a grid just to kind of show, depending on what employee unit you were in for bargaining or otherwise, we just wanted to identify who is eligible for which plans, because it is staggered based on your collective bargaining agreement termination and renewal. So here you can look and see for the medical plan, we have the bargaining units on the left-hand side, including unrepresented folks. That high deductible plan 4 and PPOH are offered to most of the Clatsop County employees at this time. Their ONA is still remaining in high deductible 1 and PPOD, and then you can see the same across the vision benefits and the dental plans. There's 2 dental plans currently available. Depending on which unit you're in, you get one option. Any questions about your eligibility for the plans or what plan you might be in? And then on the next page, we do have your premium deductions listed. So depending on how you are going to enroll, you can have a look at your monthly costs. So you can see on the left-hand side, if you're employee only, employee and spouse or domestic partner, employee and family, employee child or employee and 2 or more children. So you have to think about, okay, I'm going to sign up. Maybe I'm employee only. If you want both the medical and dental, you just need to find your column that you're associated with for your employment classification. So say you're all others, you're falling in unrepresented perhaps. To have medical and dental, it's going to be $85.65 for the high deductible plan. If you're interested in looking at that PPO option, which is a buy-up option, it's $125.52 if you're in that all others category. Yes.
Amy, if I could interrupt for a second. When we're talking about domestic partner benefits, that's only for same-sex domestic partners at this time, and they must be registered same-sex domestic partners.
Thank you for that clarification, Kelly. Yeah, the Oregon State Registry for Domestic Partnerships is only for same-gender domestic partners. I appreciate you adding that insight there. And again, this chart is available to everybody on the inside page at Clatsop County, so you all have access to it. Any questions about the premium deductions? Again, why it's important to log in and review your current covered dependents and make sure you're in the right tier that you want to be in. I'm getting a little hold music. Are you guys hearing that, or am I going nutty?
No, I'm going to try to mute that. Hold on one second. Oh, I think they got it.
Awesome. Thought I was losing my marbles for a minute. Okay, so some important reminders as you make your open enrollment determinations. If you're thinking about taking a high deductible health plan, we really recommend that you review the enrollment form for the health savings account. There are some specific eligibility rules associated with having the health savings account. So for example, if you're on Medicare, you can be disqualified from making pre-tax contributions or receiving pre-tax contributions from the county. That's an IRS rule. So it's really important that you look into your personal situation. If you are receiving those monies from Clatsop County and putting your own contributions in pre-tax, that you review the supplemental form just to make sure none of those extenuating circumstances apply to you. Otherwise, there could be tax penalties, and nobody wants the IRS knocking on the door. Both of the plans have access to dependent care flexible spending. So that's a pre-tax account. You can set aside up to $5,000 pre-tax per household. If you're married, filing jointly, I think it's $2,500 per person to pay for dependent daycare while you're going to work. And that can be expanded to adult dependents if you have the correct paperwork. So children, dependents, and potentially adults as well. And then the PPO plan, if you take that option, like with the high deductible plan, you get the health savings account. If you opt in on the PPO and you'd like a pre-tax account, you could pair it with a healthcare flexible spending account, or FSA. That's pre-tax money that you can use for medical, dental, and vision expenses if you're on the PPO plan. So you can't have both a healthcare FSA and a health savings account at the same time on the Clatsop County benefits. And then all plans also include access to virtual visits through MD Live. So this is really handy. I know we've talked about, I've worked with Clatsop County for 6 years now, and we've had some discussions about access, making sure you have really good access to visits. Being at the coast, it's a little more limited. The MD Live benefit's great. You can have a phone call or video call with a provider. It's a supplemental network of providers. You usually talk to an actual doctor. It's not just nurses. Maybe you'll send them a picture. They'll take a look. If you have a rash, and they can send a prescription in for an ointment or a cream. And the cost of that visit is pretty small. It's only $42. So even if you're on the high deductible plan and you have to satisfy your deductible first, you can get access to virtual visits for a much lower cost than going into a brick and mortar provider's office if you just need something quick. and easy. Like pink eye is a good example. Yeah, anything they can see or diagnose, without you physically walking in the door. Any questions on those reminders? I don't know, Kelly or Jane, if you want to add any comments on other important reminders, maybe. Let me know if I missed anything. Okay. All right. I want to talk a little bit more about the health savings account. So the high deductible health plan option is the most popular plan at Clatsop County. So a lot of you are probably participating in that and have a health savings account associated with it. The health savings account is administered by Optum Bank, and that's kind of decided so the county can easily, fund those bank accounts on your behalf when they make their contributions. The health savings account allows you to pay pre-tax for medical, dental, and vision expenses very similarly to the FSA. The money that goes in there does not expire. It's always associated with you as the account holder. So it's your savings account. Even though the county puts money in, the minute that money is in that account, it is yours. And it, like I said, doesn't expire, rolls over every year. The only limit is the amount of money you can put in pre-tax in the year. So we have listed here in the grid for 2022 for single coverage, the IRS federal limit is a maximum pre-tax contribution of $3,650. For family, it's $7,300. So it's a pretty significant pre-tax savings vehicle if you want to put that much away. If you're over age 55, you can add $1,000 to both of those limits. But then, of course, you have to factor in if you're eligible for the county's contribution. Then if you're singly covered, you could really only add an additional $2,550 because the county is going to be giving you $1,100 into that account. So that IRS max is a combination of employer funds and employee funds going into there in the year. I kind of talked a little bit about some of the benefits. I personally am in an HSA with a high deductible plan. I like the flexibility of, if I'm not having a ton of exposure, I can, start padding that health savings account. I like to think of it as my healthcare retirement account. So hopefully I can enjoy my retirement savings on fun things, and then I'll have my little nest egg of healthcare savings for, if I am lucky enough to live into old age, then that would be, I can use those funds for that reason. So it's really great. It's triple tax advantage. So you put the money in pre-tax. It grows normal savings account interest pre-tax. You can also, within the account, invest it into money market funds, and the growth on the investments is not taxable. And then, of course, when you take it out for qualified expenses, it's not taxed. So it's a really great way to just protect your money from the tax man and set that aside. When you're over 65, it's more flexible. You can use it for Medicare premiums, and you can also use it for other types of expenses, and you don't have the penalty anymore. So you still have to, report it and pay tax on the money, but you don't have to worry about any penalties. So we have the link in here to the publication from the IRS website about what are eligible expenses and some of the rules. But again, that supplemental form that we mentioned has a lot of good tips on, you're using your HSA, what you can and can't do with it. Any questions on the health savings account? It does have a debit card associated with it. You would want to designate a beneficiary like you would on your retirement plan, just in case something happened to you, because that money would have to go somewhere. I heard something. Anybody? Thoughts? Okay. So the alternative account, if you're not in the high deductible plan with health savings account, and you're taking the PPO option, but you also like the idea of pre-tax monies that you can spend for medical, dental, and vision expenses, we have the two types of flexible spending accounts. So this page is really specifically mentioning both the healthcare FSA and the dependent care account. So if you're taking the PPO and you know that you're going to need a new pair of glasses, you're going to have to get that root canal this year, and you're going to probably have your normal prescription expenses, you can set aside up to $2,750 into a flexible spending account. One of the big differences, I like to reiterate, HSA is health savings, so that money doesn't expire. FSA is flexible spending, so we really want that account to be spent down every year. It's not a good idea to leave money in there. It's use it or lose it. So do budget carefully if you want to do the flexible spending account. One of the nice features of it for healthcare FSA is that if you make that election, say you just want $1,000 or $1,200 for 2022, that money becomes available to you at the first payroll in January, the full $1,200, and then you pay the county back through equal payroll deductions during the year. So $100 a month comes out of your check, but if you needed to get that LASIK eye surgery or whatever it might be in February, you have the funds available to you right then. So it's like a pre-tax, tax-free loan, basically, on the healthcare FSA. And then, like I said, you also have dependent care FSA as an option, and that's available to you on both plans. So high deductible or PPO, you could set aside up to $5,000 pre-tax for dependent care expenses. That's not pre-funded. That's funded as you make payroll deductions, but just another really nice way to reduce your taxable income. On the healthcare FSA, you can roll over up to $500 into the next plan year. But like I said, I caution you, even though that feature is there, don't get used to, building up a big flexible spending account balance. Definitely try to spend it down. Okay. Any questions about that? All right. Moving on, we have your employee assistance program. You actually have two employee assistance programs available to you through Clatsop County. There's one that's just bundled into your life and disability benefits through Morneau Chappelle through the standard. And then you also have one through Cascade Centers, which is associated with your CIS benefits. You can have confidential, no cost counseling appointments with providers through either of the EAPs. I recommend going through Cascade Centers first and using their benefits there. They have a really great network in Oregon. So you get up to 5 face-to-face visits per issue or incident per year. So if you're having a really rough year, and a lot of people, are struggling, given the state of things right now, maybe you're having some loss and grief, and you're also experiencing some relationship issues, those are different reasons that you could access 5 visits at no cost to you. But I don't want you to think of them as only for counseling services. You can call the EAP for anything that's really causing you an imbalance in your life. So it's almost like a life assistant. Like I said, it's totally confidential. It doesn't cost you anything to give them a call. We were speaking with Cascade Centers on another client recently, and they were said that a person was traveling and they wanted to find a fun event to go to just to kill some time while they were out of town, and they helped them find concert tickets, for example. So you can really leverage the EAP just to pet sitting, helping find a daycare. Maybe you just moved and you're needing to find a new provider. They just provide a lot of resources to you. There's financial planning services, all kinds of great tools. Highly recommend you check out their website, and you can text and chat with a counselor through the EAP. So again, totally confidential, really great service. If you've never called them, there's no risk to give them a buzz and see what they could do for you. Any questions on the employee assistance program? It's a frequently underutilized benefit, but I think one of the best benefits available through the employer-sponsored programs. All right. There's also, if you are sitting on this call and you're like, well, I don't want to take either of the health plans, there is an opt-out benefit. So if you are waiving the county's medical coverage, which you absolutely can do that, there's a monthly cash payment available of $100 per month to employees. But you have to provide proof that you have other coverage under a qualified group plan. Typically, it would be your spouse or partner's employer-sponsored plan, and you have to show evidence of coverage every single year to continue to get that $100 monthly benefit. The government-sponsored care wouldn't qualify. So if you have TRICARE, Medicare, Medicaid, or an individual plan, that doesn't qualify for the opt-out credit. So you just would want to provide that information to HR with your proof of other coverage. Okay. Also, as a reminder, if you have maybe you've been an employee of Clatsop County for a really long time, we just like to refresh everybody on some of the other great benefits that the county provides to employees. So basic life and AD&D is paid for, and then there's also long-term disability coverage that you all have access to. So these benefits are available through the standard insurance. You can see here, just depending on your employment classification, you might be in class 1 or 2. So class 1, for example, unrepresented has kind of been my theme. You would get $40,000 of life insurance in the event that you passed away. If it's an accidental death situation, you get the $40,000 of life and then an additional $40,000 for accidental death. So it's a double indemnity benefit. There are benefits in these programs for you while you're still living. So they're kind of a little unique. You don't necessarily need to worry about it. But if you were diagnosed with something terminal, for example, it gets a little bit dark, but it is important to know. You could take a portion of your life insurance payout while you're still alive to help you kind of get your affairs in order and get things settled in. So that's just a lesser known feature of the plans that just keep in touch with HR if that ever, is an issue. Hopefully it's not for you, but just nice to know you have these benefits available. And then you also have long-term disability. That's the LTD. Again, just depends on what employment classification you're in, what your benefit is, but that's paycheck insurance essentially. So if you have to go out, for a long-term illness, maybe you, just are very sick and going to be out for more than 3 or 6 months, you can get up to 50% of your earnings up to $3,000 or $1,000 per month while you're out on long-term disability. So again, that's not something hopefully you have to utilize, but it is there in the case something unexpected happens. And that benefit pays out until you're no longer disabled or normal Social Security retirement age if you have to continue to be on disability for a long time. Any questions on the life or disability benefits? Okay. You also have the option to purchase voluntary life and accidental death and dismemberment. So if you'd like to supplement what is provided to you through the county, typically at new hire, this is discussed, and you can purchase up to $100,000 without any medical questions asked. So the minimum amount for employee only is $20,000. But like I said, if you're newly hired, you can go up to 100 with no questions asked. If you purchased at least $20,000, you can go up an increment or $10,000 at annual enrollment without having to answer medical questions. But if you don't participate in this plan and you newly would like to participate and you're not a new hire, you do have to generally complete a evidence of insurability or health questionnaire. Not too invasive, but just to get approved to have the coverage. And that's life and AD&D bundled together, so you get that double indemnity benefit there. You can purchase coverage also up to 50% of your own voluntary life amount for your spouse, and there's a benefit too available if you want to cover your children, dependents. So there's an enrollment form. The link is in the open enrollment packet that Clatsop put together. So if you're interested in signing up for that, you would want to complete the enrollment and change form. And then depending on your situation, you might also have to provide the medical history statement as well as part of that. Any questions about voluntary life? All right, we have your contacts for all these benefit offerings here as part of this presentation. It's also part of the benefit guide that was provided, so you can link out directly to all of the vendor websites, and you have all their phone numbers here as well to refer to. Of course, you can come to Jane or Kelly or Karen or I for any general benefits overviews. We have both of your EAPs listed. And all of the other coverages here for your reference. This is all part of that same document. Okay, now we're opening it up for questions. Again, if you want access to this information, it's there on the inside page. And you can also poke around in Dayforce, and the CIS Connect enrollment site has some information available for you too.
So Amy, just a couple follow-ups. This year, everybody will be getting separate vision cards through VSP. They used to be combined on the same Regents card, but that's no longer the case, so look for that. Also, with EAP, there's financial, legal, and with the standards and travel assistant options. So if you're needing help with like creating a will or financial planning, or if you're finally getting ready to plan that trip once all the COVID restrictions relax, that's great too, and the EAP can help you with that. And also, if you currently have voluntary life insurance, you should have received kind of a statement from Jane listing out what your benefits currently are, who your beneficiaries are. Just to give you a point of reference, sometimes that's easy to forget. So Jane did a really good job making sure everybody with voluntary life got that information. If you didn't get a statement, that means you don't currently have voluntary life, but if you would want it, we can sign you up for that. So I think other than that, if you have a question and you want me to unmute you, just write it in the chat box and I will go ahead and unmute you. If not, sorry, Jane just sent me, did not include the voluntary life insurance statements, did not include the beneficiaries. So if you have any questions about that, just contact Jane directly. And finally, last year we presented everybody options with one-on-one meetings with either Jane, myself, Amy, or Karen. And if that's something you would like to explore as an option, if you have very specific questions, just reach out to either me or Jane and we can get you Amy's contact information or Karen's contact information. And you can set up your own appointment at any time during the open enrollment process. Also, if you're wondering about AFLAC, we are going to be working with Corey, and she is going to be holding her own open enrollment meetings as well. So when we get her scheduled, we will certainly send out an email and let you know about that. So if there's nothing else, I'm looking at my email. I don't see anything. I'm looking at the chat. I don't see anything. Again, we'll have this recording posted on Inside and sent out with a link. And the slide deck is based off of the open enrollment guide that is also on Inside, like Amy said. And we just want you to have as much information as possible. Oh, Amy, I do have a question about dental cards. Do you know anything about MODA sending out dental cards?
Yes, they don't normally do a big batch of dental cards every couple of years or anything, but if you need to get a new dental card, you can call them and request one and they'll send you one. That's the best way to go about it. If you're newly enrolling, of course, you would get one. But otherwise you'd want to request it from Delta Dental directly.
Yeah, you can also order one online. If you have a MyModa account, you can download your card. So if you've lost it, maybe you can at least print it off, and then you can also order a new card for yourself if you don't want to call in.
Okay. So I see a question about premium costs, and if we could address that in a separate email, I would appreciate that, just to avoid any confusion, not to be disrespectful to the person asking me the question. We'll follow up with that question, but thank you for asking. I know it can be confusing as well. So other than that, I don't know, Jane, am I missing anything? She's shaking her head no. So again, thanks everybody for attending today. Appreciate that. Appreciate you. And again, any questions at all, you know where to find us. So thank you and have a great day.